Good evening, Washington. It is late right now, but I wanted to do a quick stream because I know I said earlier, I've been ignoring all these surveys. I get so many of them. I could just do a full-time gig filling out surveys. If I got paid $1 a survey, my campaign would be set. Just kidding. But I'm not doing the surveys. I'm ignoring a lot of these weird journalists that reach out to me. But one of the things I wanted to do was I got this crazy survey. I talked about it in my in Reopen Washington 3 yesterday, and I talked about this guy Corey Sexton, very biased left-wing journalist from the local papers that reached out to me, and he wants me to fill out. He wants me to basically respond to all of his interview questions for his story. So the guy pushes fake news on Twitter, and that's an issue for me. So I'm not going to be officially responding to this guy, but let's go ahead and do it here. It says, let's see, let's move into scene. All right, here we go. Question 1. Tell voters a little about yourself. How long you've lived in the district you're hoping to represent, a general idea of what platforms and issues you're running on, and other general information about yourself to let voters get to know you better. Well, thank you for having me out, Mr. Sexton. I really appreciate the opportunity to answer a few questions here. My name's Adam Bartholomew, and I'm running for the 1st Legislative District, Seat 1, here in Washington. And the reason I stepped up to run is to reopen Washington State. A little bit about me. I've been living here in my current residence since 2006, and I've lived in the district for well over a decade. Been in Seattle since 2001, and I grew up visiting here because my mom is from Seattle. So I grew up kind of coming to see grandma, coming here for our holidays, that kind of thing. The area is beautiful. I love Washington. That's why I moved here. When I graduated high school, I moved out here to follow my own American dream and pursue my dreams. And that's what happened. So I moved out here to Seattle. And the reason that I ended up getting into this whole race and running for office is to reopen Washington. We got shut down, and I think that the shutdown was unconstitutional. I think it was illegal for Jay Inslee to do that, but we got shut down, and that's why I'm here. What experience would you bring to the position that you're running for? Are there any issues in particular that you are passionate about or plan to prioritize if elected? Well, I don't have any previous elected experience. I'm not a politician. I'm actually in the auto business. I've been in the car business for almost 20 years, and I'm a service manager. And what I do is I manage the service department for a car dealership, where I manage all the aspects of taking a project vehicle from the stage that it's in when we get it to the final stage. And we have to solve all the problems in the process and bring people together and work on various teams to get to accomplish a goal for as cheaply as possible. And I know that with a lot of the things that I've seen in Washington State, I think, man, if I ran the business the way that I see a lot of our government agencies being run, we'd be out of business, and we would have been out of business long ago. And so what experience do I bring? Just managing a small business, I think, is a tremendous experience that we need in Olympia. We need people who have actually run small businesses, because it seems like the people in Olympia are only speaking for big tech. All the laws and regulation that comes out of Olympia really speaks for big tech. There's nobody speaking for the average working class Washingtonian, the working class families and small businesses, in my opinion. And that's what I bring to the table. Small business experience. I've been working in a small business for a long time. The state budget is facing a budget deficit of nearly $9 billion. including a $4.5 billion shortfall from the 2019 through 2021 budget and another $4.3 billion shortfall from the 21 through 2023, is anticipated as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Legislators have proposed several options, like implementing a state income tax, a capital gains tax, new taxes on businesses, or making cuts in the budget. What are your ideas for addressing this budget shortfall? Well, I'm not open to any new taxes. I think that we are taxed enough, and I think that more taxes are only going to inhibit any growth and any recovery that we're going to see in Washington State. I'd prioritize budget cuts, and obviously that's in the next question here, but my ideas for addressing the budget shortfall is going to be budget cuts. It's going to be going through a lot of our big bloated government agencies and cutting costs. We have roads, you have a bloated transportation agency, but yet we have the same 2-lane highways throughout the state ever since I was a little kid. So we need to cut costs in some of our bloated agencies, and we need to, if anything, cut taxes to get out of the way. We need to cut some taxes, cut regulations, and get out of the way of small business, and get out of the way of our own recovery. If you favor budget cuts, what area would you prioritize funding for, and areas would you propose cutting? Well, I'd prioritize law enforcement first and foremost. That would be that's the keeping citizens safe and keeping our businesses safe is the chief responsibility, I would say, of the government. I would say that's the number one responsibility, is to keep us safe, and I would say that that's the number one responsibility for our funding. The second thing is giving our kids an education, so that would be obviously number two. And I think that addressing the education problems and giving parents the power of choice would be a number one priority for me. Washington State, specifically Snohomish County, was the first place in the country to have a confirmed COVID-19 diagnosis. Some have said the federal government was not prepared for the pandemic, forcing state and local officials to come up with their own plans. Do you have ideas for ensuring the state is prepared to resolve this and future pandemic crises? Here's the thing about this. The government can't protect us from everything. I mean, we have immune systems for a reason. They've developed over millennia in the way that they have for a reason. And to expect that the government is just going to be able to keep us safe from a virus, and that we should be able to, and that we should shut down our economy. I mean, we're doing far more damage to our economy and to our population through the shuttering of our economy. Not to mention people in third world countries that are affected by our economy. But we are doing far more damage with the shutdown than we are with the remedy, than we are in improvements with the remedy. The shutdowns have done far more damage and destruction than they ever solved, than the lives that they've saved. They were terrible, and I think that for us to expect that the state is somehow able to protect us is ridiculous. I think that we need to have the proper PPE gear. Obviously, we need to have if we need to have a situation where we cut off what we should have done, where Jay Inslee shut everything down to slow the spread and not overwhelm our hospitals, which never happened. What I believe they should have done was they should have kept isolated the most vulnerable among us, and then what we also should have done was said, okay, let's do a 2-week hold on all elective procedures, and then revisit after 2 weeks if we need to, if we're going to try and prevent people from overwhelming the system. Okay, that would have been a smart move. But instead we shut everything down, and then we're just, after multiple hospitals in the region have laid off medical staff because of empty facilities, because they don't have any customers coming in. They're laying people off. Only then do we reinstitute elective procedures. I mean, this whole thing is backwards. Jay Inslee addressed the entire pandemic in reverse. We should have, instead of going off of all of these wild models, which have since been proven totally bunk, what we should have done was waited for more information to come in. We should have taken things into advisement. We should have said, hey, here's what we do. Businesses that are able to voluntarily shut down. We're not mandating anything, but voluntarily shut down. If you want to, if you're capable of working from home, do it. Isolate the most vulnerable among us. People that are in school and that are, sick or that are vulnerable because they're old or weak or have comorbidities like, health problems, then let's isolate those people and keep them safe. But the vast majority of healthy individuals shouldn't have been shut down and forced to stay home. And just the suicide and depression alone that has resulted from the pandemic, I mean, that's reason enough to just call this whole thing off right now and reopen our economy. Our nation is currently in the middle of a polarizing conversation about racism, particularly with regards to the over-policing in communities of color. The FBI statistics, even Obama spoke about this. Obama spoke clearly about the disproportionate amount of crime committed by a disproportionately small segment of our population. So to completely omit that, to leave that out of the entire question, that we are having a polarizing conversation about racism, particularly with regards to the over-policing in communities of color. What about the communities of color over-representing themselves in the crime statistics from the Federal Bureau of Investigation? That's not even mentioned here in the question. There have been calls for police reform. I think that if we have police brutality as a symptom of a problem, if we have police brutality issues happening, then we need to have more police training. We need to have more police, better equipped police. They need to be better equipped with actual physical equipment maybe, and they also need to be better equipped in their training, maybe their psychological preparation for the job. But we need to be better funding our officers, and we need to be actually giving them back the power and the authority they had over the streets. We've neutered our police, in my opinion, and it's a disgrace. Replace a police with a police response with social services? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That is absurd. I have seen social workers who couldn't handle an 8-year-old girl and had to call the police. Okay, with my own eyes, I've seen that happen, where they could not restrain an 8-year-old girl. And we see what happens on the streets when these police are told to stand down and they don't restrain these children that are throwing bricks. And we have a social worker that couldn't even handle an 8-year-old child? Give me a break. Social services. Yeah, maybe some more mental health services and that kind of thing might be a serious solution. I don't want to disparage the reporter's ideas or whatever, but I just think it's a little bit absurd saying to replace the police response with social services. Now, if you're talking about homeless and people that are just living on the streets in general, that's a symptom of a bigger problem. Addiction and mental health crises. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't have the police babysitting everybody. I agree with that. We should not be sending out the police to deal with people that are arrested, and then just immediately released because we don't have the facilities to hold them. We need more facilities and more people to take care of these social situations that are going on that are causing our homeless problems. And that's mainly major drug addiction. We've decriminalized drugs. We've made it so that people are able to keep using things like heroin on the street, and then if they get it, the cops won't arrest them. If they do get arrested for it, they're immediately released. We're not holding anybody accountable for those things. And it creates a situation where people come from all over the country to Freeaddle, or as my son calls it, Peeaddle, because of the smell. People come here from all over the country because they can just pee in the streets and they can do drugs and do heroin with complete disregard for themselves, for their own health, and for the safety of other people. They're allowed to just do their drugs in the street, and it's a magnet for people. And then you spend millions of dollars on a self-cleaning restroom that ends up becoming just a crack den. And it attracts more people. It's like putting a bowl of milk out on your porch. It just attracts you give a stray cat milk and it gets more. We need to have more funding for our police, more training, more specialized training. But if you want to say we need more social services to address things like homelessness because of the mental health crisis and the drug addiction crises that we have going on, I would fully agree with that. Additionally, if you do support defunding the police, no. Homelessness. We just talked about that. Many are concerned about the rising costs, housing costs in the region. With Sound Transit's light rail coming to South Snohomish County in 2024, nobody wants light rail. Very few people even use the transit systems around here. But meanwhile, we've got these 2-lane highways that are just death roads. And we've got toll roads on 405. We've got 2-lane death roads, and they're implementing the Sound Transit light rail that nobody asked for. What we did ask for was $30 car tabs, Jay Inslee. That's what we asked for. Multiple times, and it hasn't happened. The area is anticipating population increases. Yes. What plans or ideas do you have to ensure there is enough affordable housing in your district for future residents, while making sure those who already live there do not get priced out? Well, I think that getting priced out is just it's not a bad thing. I mean, if I get priced out of my own neighborhood, I bought this place, and if it gets so expensive that I'm priced out, then I'm going to sell it and probably move. But I understand that not everybody thinks that way. But at the end of the day, value increases are a good thing. They're a good thing for our district. And when our district expands, when more people move in and we have bigger housing developments, it's going to change the zoning will actually change, and we'll have high density zoning in specific places. We're already seeing that come in various places in the district. And I think that this question, I think it's the wrong question. I don't think that I don't think we should be so concerned about that. I think that, especially right now with our economic issues caused by the COVID shutdown, I don't think really worrying about pricing people out of the district and that kind of thing is an issue. We need to get people back to work. That's what we need to do. Climate change, skip, just kidding. Just kidding, is considered a priority issue for many. Yes, it is. It is a priority issue. But once again, it's one of those things. Well, yeah, we can use the right regulation. We can control the way, make sure that citizens and businesses are not destroying our environment. I mean, we live here for a reason. We love the environment. People love living here with open nature and all of the greenery in Washington State. People love that. I love that about Washington. And we need to protect that. But we also need to look at the fact that we have so many overlapping regulations between the state and federal bureaucracies regarding the environment. We need to seriously address those and make sure we don't have so many overlapping things that it prohibits business development. Because right now we need to reopen Washington State. That's the number one priority of my campaign. That's the number one priority. That should be the number one priority of everybody in Olympia, reopening our economy. If elected, how would you support LGBTQIA voters? Well, America is the place for LGBT community. It is the freest country in the world and the most gay-friendly. We have right now the most gay-friendly president. Donald Trump is the first president we've ever had that supported gay marriage before he was elected. Amazing. He didn't switch after getting elected on false pretenses like Barack Obama, Bush, Clinton, Bush, and the rest. So we already have the most pro-gay situation. We have the most pro-gay president. If people want to be gay, great. Do whatever you want to do. But don't try and force it down everybody else's throat. And that's what's going on right now. They are totally free to do what they want to do. But don't go and force it on the rest of us, please. Let's all just coexist at now. That's what we need to do. We need to work on coexisting. Because everybody's free right now. And right now, the biggest problem we have is people forcing their agendas on other people. We need to stop that. We need to stop that here in Washington State. We need to stop that in America. It's like the log cabin Republicans say that recently endorsed me. Let me just pull this email up really quick here. I have a great quote in here. Sorry to get sidetracked. To paraphrase Ronald Reagan, the person who agrees with you 80% of the time is a friend and an ally, not a 20% traitor. I know we agree far more than we disagree when it comes to the LGBT community. And as a Christian, I can tell you that I personally believe that our society that's based off of the Christian values, built on Christian values, has allowed a situation for the LGBT community to flourish. And so we all have to be thankful for that. We have to be thankful for our forefathers and for the country we've been born into, really. And I think that teaching freedom and teaching patriotism and teaching American exceptionalism is one of the ways that we can support not only the LGBT community but all communities in Washington by teaching a cohesive patriotism that everybody can rally around being an American. That's where we all converge. That's where we all unite, is being Americans. And I think that's how I would support the community. The COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted education locally and nationwide. Many school districts are not prepared. Yeah, they weren't. Of course. How could they be prepared for this? But there are other school agencies that were prepared and already had this online stuff figured out. And the vulnerable and the people that are at risk, those students and teachers should be able to utilize the online things and have those made available to them. But to force everybody to stay home, this isn't right. We need to reopen our economy, reopen our schools. We need to reopen Washington State. Voters can learn more about me at my website, adam4wa.com. It forwards to my website, adambartholomew.org. You can see my policies there. I'm on Facebook, Friends of Adam Bartholomew, and you can find me on Gab, YouTube, Twitter, at Life is Driving, all one word. I'm running for office to reopen our economy because I think that this shutdown is unconstitutional, and I've seen it come and not go away. If Jay Inslee had kept his promise and shut us down for only 2 weeks, like we all agreed to, I wouldn't be here. And many of you wouldn't be watching. So that's what I'm here for. That's why I'm running. I hope you'll please support my campaign. Go to my website. Like my Facebook page. It really helps. Believe it or not, that's the biggest thing that many people can do, is just support my campaign by liking the page. So if you could do that, I would really appreciate it. Again, my website, adam4wa.com. Thank you.